Brown Street or Main Street in East Hampton had two quite expensive houses on it. One, the Jeremiah Miller House, which we're going to talk about right now, and one, the Gardner Brown House, which we'll talk about a little later in a couple weeks. The Jeremiah Miller House was built in 1799. It's a gambrel roof structure. In other words, its roof goes like this and then slants up, so you've got a roof here and a roof here, which gives you a whole lot more space on the third floor than you would have if you had a typical gable like that. Very popular during the Georgian period, very popular during the colonial period. Are only a few of them left, but they were always sort of a symbol of a really big house. And Mr. Miller was a very well-to-do member of the community. He was the first post office master. And if you face the house, on the right-hand side, there's a small wing, which originally was one story. It's now been raised to 2 stories. And that was the original post office, and it was right on Main Street. So the house was bought by the DeRose family. And at that time, it was just very simple. Photographs we have of the period show a somewhat bedraggled looking large old house. It was right on Main Street, which would have been typical, maybe 2 or 3 feet from the public walk there. And when DeRose bought it, it came with almost its complete original colonial town or house lot, which was somewhere between 7 to 10 acres. So it was a very large piece of property, and that's exactly what he wanted, because he wanted to have some things going on behind the house for the summer as well, and he wanted room because he was going to move it back from Main Street. It was a federal house with very elegant detailing. It had particularly rare little federal porch, which was very beautiful with very simple 1790s detailing, more Roman than Grecian. It got moved back, a new porch was put on, another wing was put on the south side, and on the north side they raised the little post office up another story so it could be another bedroom, and did what we tend to use a term, we colonialized, colonial revival. It wasn't colonial enough. They wanted to make it more colonial, which would mean special moldings around the windows and things of that nature. And it was built as a summer house, and probably it was about 1885 that it got moved back and colonialized. And by the turn of the century, the Groot family, Manson family rather, buy the house. And it's most famous today because it has a historic marker. We don't have a lot of historic markers on Main Street. And it's important because Mrs. Manson, Mrs. May Groot Manson, was one of New York State's prime suffragists and certainly played a huge role in the movement here in East Hampton. But if you go online and look at the Star archives, and if you put in Manson, you'll see that Mrs. Manson was very, very involved with virtually anything in the community. She was a constant volunteer. She helped make and organize groups of people to make bandages for the dying men out that were brought over during the Spanish-American War to Camp Wyckoff in Montauk. She was a mover in the church and the library and lots of different volunteer capacities. So besides a suffragist, she was really totally involved and loved East Hampton so much that her entire family is buried in our lot here, our South End burying ground. So that's the story of the Miller House. It's a little hard to see because it has a brick fence and a wall of plants, but You can see it usually a little bit from the driveway, but it's a strikingly beautiful colonial revival mansion.